Hello again. Welcome to another episode of Leading from Alignment with our good friend and coach, John Opalewski. How are you today, John?
Hey, Jim, I'm good. It's good to be with you recording today. I'm excited to jump on to part two of our
Yes.
conversation around harnessing the energy of core values. Last week,
Yeah.
we began this series talking about the irreplaceable role that core values play. They answer the question, how? How are we
Right.
going to behave on our way to the end zone?
Right
We
on.
said that they are the organizational rumble strips of the company or church you lead. They're the behavioral hills you'll die on, and that they're organizational fuel and
Right.
oxygen. And we want to get to the end zone in one piece.
Yeah.
I don't want to get to the end zone with our organization's dismembered, so to speak,
Hmm.
where there's just a strewn bodies strewn all over the
Yes.
place because
Yeah.
we were going to get to that end zone no matter what.
Right.
And we would cut corners. We might treat people poorly. We might run
Yeah.
over people's. And look, if you get to the end zone and that is the net result of the people that you've led who have served with you, you failed. You have not succeeded, in my mind. And so
Yeah.
values help us to behave a certain way on our way to the end zone. So last week we talked about
Yeah.
what core values aren't, what they are, and then we talked about identifying and then amplifying them. So that's what we talked about last week.
Love it.
Uh,
Yeah.
Today I'd like to talk about how we use those values that we've identified, that we've clarified, that we've amplified. How do we
Yeah.
use them to shape culture? And
Good.
I just want to talk about four things.
Yeah.
Here's four ways to take values and shape culture with them. Do you want to say anything, Jim, before I jump into
No,
these? Are you
I'm
ready?
excited about the four things. Yeah. I think all of our listeners are.
Okay, so here's the first one. This one's real simple, and that's teaching.
Yeah.
I would encourage you every year to do a series on your church's core values. Now, if
Good.
you've got 15 core values, um, first of all, people won't remember 15. I would say
Mhm.
four or five probably
Yeah.
would be a good number to shoot for. But teach every year. And here's I can help you with that. And this is from last week. So here's what you do. Let's say you got four core values. You have a 4-week series
Yeah.
right there. So take value one, and for that value, what does this mean in our
Right.
context here at this church? Here's what this value means. Second point, I'm giving you a sermon series right here.
Do it.
Why
Yeah.
does it why does it matter?
Yeah.
Who cares?
Right.
What's there to gain if we actually live this value out? What's there to lose if we don't? And then
Right.
thirdly, what behaviors are behind these values? And so we encourage you to teach a series every year on your
Mhm.
values. Because,
Yeah.
you might think, well, I just did it last year. My people certainly remember them, don't they? No,
Yeah.
they don't. They probably don't. They need to be reminded.
Yeah.
You need to be reminded, and so does your
Right.
staff.
I was going to say the same thing. And you do too. Yeah. You articulating it maybe slightly differently through the years, right? As things grow or things change, or
Yes,
maybe emphasizing a little bit more because of the circumstances in the world around you, one way or the other.
that's
So,
right.
yeah, don't write them on a wall and forget about them and think everybody has it. About the time you're
Yeah.
tired of saying it, people are just starting to get it. And so say it often, repeat it.
Right. And so our values haven't changed over the years, Jim,
Yeah.
at a high level, but we have added more clarity over the years to what they mean and
Yeah.
more to the behaviors behind it and maybe even
Yeah.
more to why this is so important. So you can come
Yeah.
back to these values every year and it doesn't have to be the same thing you did in terms of all of the pieces the year
Yeah.
prior. So teaching. Second
Yeah.
second way we use core values to shape culture is to model those values.
Yep.
Um, I think values are more caught than taught. I think that's true.
Hmm.
It starts with the leadership team. In many ways, the leadership team is the culture, if that makes any sense.
Right.
Um, and so, whatever that is happening in the life of the leaders in terms of their relatability to the core values seems to cascade down
Yeah.
to department directors, to team leads, to those who are serving on teams, and to the general population.
Yeah.
Um, so when you teach values, you shape the culture.
Yeah.
When you model values and lead by example, you shape the culture. Now, I want to
Absolutely.
stop there for a minute. What do you think about the teaching, well, the modeling piece, Jim? We already talked a
Yeah.
little
I,
bit about.
I think that teaching without modeling is, I mean, hypocrisy is not
Yeah,
too far from the word I'm trying to say. It if your life does not model those values but contradicts those values, there is no reason to have values. So I mean, be careful how you word these things, and then be careful to live them as worded, or you create a culture with all the right words but none of the right actions. And if anybody in your team could say, well, you say that but you don't do that, you do just the opposite of that,
right,
it'd be better that we never said it to begin with, really, because we've created a culture where it's the Wild West. There's laws, nobody obeys them, and that's understood more clearly than the laws.
right,
Why have laws? So no, I think especially the higher you are in leadership, the more important it is that you don't just talk about them, but you display them and model them and live them.
right.
Boy, without that, it's funny, John, because I'm thinking about our organization, that you lead. And there have been times where you talk about Sabbath and rest, and we were just talking about it a little while ago, but you had a long weekend of ministry, and it went on into
Yep,
Monday, and you could have gotten home at 11 o'clock Monday night, exhausted, ready to work again on Tuesday morning, or spend Monday night where you were with your wife, and enjoy your drive back. And that's a sacrifice of time, but it
right,
reaffirmed a value of rest. We don't work to exhaustion and then rest. We work from rest, into our day. We begin with Sabbath. We honor that, and so
yeah,
you had to take a day off of a regular work day to do that, but you
right.
honored it. So by modeling it, that's so much better than, yeah, I'm all burned out because I had a long weekend and I didn't manage my time right. It'd be better we didn't have the value than to have you model it poorly. So by modeling it,
Right.
that's what John does, and John's healthy. We need to do what John does.
Yeah. So teaching,
Yep,
modeling.
modeling.
I think a third way we use values to shape culture is celebration.
Yep, absolutely.
What gets celebrated gets repeated. I know you all heard that before.
Mm-hmm.
This has to do with catching people living out the values.
Yeah,
And when they do, making a big deal
yeah,
about it. And when you celebrate the values, you shape the culture. So
yeah,
there's a teaching piece, there's a modeling piece, there's a celebrating piece. And the celebrating can be a variety of things. Now, our team is scattered all over the country, right?
yeah,
So we don't all gather together in a room and, you know, present an
yeah,
award or anything like that. We do that over email, right? We have a
yeah,
team email, and if I get wind of somebody that's just living the core values out beautifully, we make a big deal of that. Why do I
yeah.
do that? Because I want to reinforce to our team that
Right.
we notice these behaviors and they matter to us. They're what make
Mhm.
our organization unique.
Yeah,
It's not that we coach,
yeah,
it's not that we train coaches, it's not that we do cohorts, it's how we behave organizationally that makes us
yeah.
different.
Right, right.
And so the celebration piece. And then the fourth one, do you want to speak to that at all, Jim? The
No,
the
I
celebration?
think it speaks for itself. I think everyone who's ever received praise in one form or another for doing something right understands the value of that.
Yeah.
Maybe I do have one comment, and that was basic training. They tore you down. The job of the
Mhm.
military is they don't care where you came from, who your daddy was, color your skin, politics, socioeconomics. We don't care. You're absolutely nothing. And then once you're convinced that you're absolutely nothing, one guy out of the platoon does a push up the right way. And the drill sergeant says, now that's the way a United States Marine does a push up. That's the way a Navy corpsman does a push up. And everybody looks at that guy. We all want to do it that way because we have
Yeah.
not received an ounce of affirmation in weeks. So
Mhm.
I'm not saying tear people down. I'm saying, look,
Right.
the reason that a Marine is always a Marine, the reason that a soldier is always a veteran is because they've agreed on certain things. And when someone was celebrated for it, it was a huge, huge deal. And those are formative moments, and catching people doing the right things and celebrating that publicly it is leadership gold. Please, please,
Mm.
please. We do this every week at our church. There's a shout out from the platform every week of somebody that did something right, that we caught doing something right. And the whole church
That's
celebrates
good.
it. We clap and we move on. It's a weekly, publicly, we catch somebody doing the
I
right
love it.
things. And that's one of the ways we form culture.
I love it. So teaching, modeling,
Yep.
celebration. Here's the fourth one, and this is where our listeners and watchers might want to get off the train, and and that is
Okay.
accountability.
Yeah. Yep.
Accountability. Holding each other accountable to the values you've identified and defined.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I mean by accountability. A
Yeah.
good number of us have probably worked for an organization or two in our lifetime that had stated core values, maybe even had them up on the wall, but those values essentially meant nothing.
Right.
There was no accountability.
Yeah.
When someone consistently lives outside of the core values, and you do bring correction to them, you do bring correction to their misbehavior, you shape the
Yeah.
culture. Now,
Yeah.
we've only had to let go a couple because of values issues, core
Yep.
values issues. Um, and while that was painful to do, it strengthened our organization and it strengthened our ability to speak into the lives of leaders.
Yes.
One of our values is healthy work rest rhythms.
Yeah.
So, Jim, if you're on our team and you're a workaholic, you are weakening our organization. You are
No.
weakening our moral authority to speak into the lives of busy
Yes.
pastors and say, hey, dude, slow down.
Yeah.
There's an invisible wall that you're about to run into.
Yeah.
And you can say that. And if that's not part of your behavior, it doesn't carry the same punch. It doesn't carry the
Right.
same authority almost.
Yes. Yeah.
And so when we correct, when we celebrate, we talk about celebrating, but when we correct misbehavior, we shape the culture.
Yeah.
Um, you might have a strong performer on your team, but they're not a fit core values wise. And
Yes.
it creates a lot of problems if you do that.
So
Uh,
hard. Yeah.
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 First of all, it sends a loud and clear message that your organization isn't all that serious about what it says it believes.
Right.
That's a
Ouch.
problem.
Yeah.
We already said that it inspires cynicism, and I would say this: that once cynicism becomes entrenched, it is very hard to reverse.
Yeah.
Not impossible, but
Yeah.
incredibly difficult. When you as a leader take the difficult step of letting somebody go who's a strong performer because they're of a values mismatch, and again, please hear me. We're not encouraging an off with their heads
Right.
approach
Right.
here.
Yeah.
What we're saying is if you have given that particular person time, and I would say from the time you address it, maybe you give them 3, 4 months, maybe if they're trying to work on it. If you address it and they say, I'm never going to do that, okay, then, we're going to talk about your exit
Yeah.
here. That's the next thing on the agenda
Yeah.
is is the exit strategy for you. But when you let that strong performer go, you send a powerful message about your commitment to the values. And here's what I've noticed is that we usually find that the performance of our remaining employees as it relates to the values
Yeah.
improves because they're no longer being stifled by the behavior of that former colleague.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I have so many examples in my mind right now
Yeah.
of exactly what you're talking about. But the reason it went on so long is this guy's this person's a high achiever. They're our best salesperson. They're the best, blank pastor we've ever had. They're the best volunteer. They've been here the longest. They're the biggest giver. They're whatever the reason is to make this decision hard.
Yeah.
But man, I universally, once that problem is solved, either through correcting the person, they stand corrected, or that person, my dad used to say, some people create happiness wherever they go, and others whenever they go. When
Mhm.
that decision is made and it's done, there's always a season of gratitude that comes afterwards. It is hard to give birth to that, but it is such a joy to have peace after
Yeah.
that season is over with,
Yes.
and insisting on this may sound bad, and I don't mean it to be bad, but there's a thought of, if we take it so seriously, they even got rid of that person, I better take it seriously too. Not as
Yes.
a threat, but as a
No.
value, right? We value this so much that we'll lose X
No.
number of dollars from profit or risk losing X number of people from this ministry because we value integrity, we value work ethic, or we value rest, or we value whatever it is so much that we are not going to call it success with that still in us. We got to get rid of that.
That's
That's a
right.
great thing. Yeah.
And I want to take it just one step further here, and then
Yeah.
we'll wrap up here, Jim. Listen, keeping someone who clearly isn't a cultural fit, and again, when I say cultural, I mean core values
Yeah.
fit,
Yeah.
it's almost always a disservice to that person as well, who's the
Yes. Good point.
not
Yeah.
a good fit. That's a disservice to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I think most often he or she knows that they don't belong
Yeah.
in the sense that they're not fit and they're frustrated
Yeah.
because they're not fitting. Letting them go puts them in a position to find an organization where they do belong and when they'll be able to thrive. Why would you waste somebody's precious months of their career because you know that they don't fit and yet you won't take that step? You are not helping them. You're hurting
Yeah.
them. You're stunting their career. I don't want to be too strong
Yeah.
about this, but
Yeah.
I everybody in this equation loses if you allow somebody for a long period of time. Again, we want to be graceful. We want to help people grow into it, perhaps. But if they are
Yeah.
not going to ever buy in, your organization's going to lose. You're going to
Yep.
lose. Your team's going to lose. And that person is going to lose too. Everybody
Yes.
loses.
Yeah.
So if you want to shape culture, you do it by teaching,
Yeah.
by modeling, by celebrating, and by accountability. And
Love it.
I think we talked in the first segment of this last week that the values journey development, the values identification and development journeys,
Yeah.
can be 3 months, 4 months, or more.
Yeah.
Um, but your culture will take a lifetime to shape.
Right.
You will never be done
Yep.
shaping the culture you need.
Yep.
So can
Yep.
can I encourage you to get started on values development? Once you get a clear picture of the end zone, the vision, start working on the values because the values will provide the jet fuel
Right.
to get you to the end zone and put the wind in your sails as an organization
I
to
love it.
get there. And if you need some help with that journey, we're here to serve you. So, Jim, would you wrap us
Perfect.
up?
Yeah, John, thank you, because I think again, sometimes we're so busy doing the ministry that we forget what the ministry is actually made out of.
Mm,
And so I've got this vision, I got this goal, then they're numbers, but they're not people and personalities and cultures. And this is such a great reminder to come back to. You can change the world over a cup of coffee. You can change the world over a list of values and teachings and modeling and celebrating and creating that culture is so vital. So thanks for your wisdom in this. It's gold to our listeners, our watchers. And again, if you're like, I don't disagree with a single thing, I just don't know what to do next, well,
yeah,
then call Converge. Get a hold of us, convergecoach.com. We'd love to be a part of that journey for you. It's the reason we get out of bed in the morning. It's the reason we have a smile on our face at the end of the day. So how can we help you? How can we serve? We'd love to be a part of your story, part of your journey. And John and I and an army of wonderful people all over the nation that are committed to what you're committed to and helping you succeed. So God bless you. Are your watchers and listeners? How can we help you? How can we serve? What can we pray for you about? Let us know at convergecoach.com. And we will talk to you again when we get back to episode 273 in just 1 week from now. Hope you're enjoying 2025. Stay warm. God bless you as you continue to lead from alignment.